Hey guys, today we are having an important conversation. How do you price your home in a shifting market? Interest rates have sharply increased over the last 3 months. We're beginning to see homes stay on the market a little bit longer. And in some pockets, we're beginning to see inventory stack up. And I welcome that because there's a lot of demand that needs to be fulfilled. So we definitely need that inventory. But before we start that conversation, I want to introduce my co-host as somebody that I hold in high regard. She's an absolute professional. She was awarded Rookie of the Year in 2019, 2020 in an office that has over 200 agents. What I really like about how she's started her business is that she actually works with sellers more than she does buyers, which is usually for a new agent is kind of the opposite. So without further ado, let me welcome Kiani Pegues. Welcome, Kiani. How are you?
Good. How are you, Phillip?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for doing this with me.
Of course. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Of course. So let's just jump right into it. Over the last 24 months, it's been pretty easy to sell a house, right? You could price it above fair market value and it would sell. You could have bad pictures and it would sell. And your house could look like, well, not the very best and it would still sell. But in my opinion, I think we're kind of done with that, or at least we're coming very close to being done with that. I think as the market begins to turn, you have to be diligent about how your home shows, how your home is marketed, but most importantly, how your home is priced. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree completely. Over these last couple of years, I have been working with a lot of sellers, just slightly more than buyers. I would say about a 60-40%. So it's been
Nice.
good. I'm seeing both ends of the spectrum. I'm seeing the difference in how I'm writing offers. I'm seeing the difference in what I'm doing to really make sure I'm pricing a home correctly at this time. And one of the biggest questions I've been getting with my listings more recently is, and most of these questions come from potential buyers, is that is the market shifting? Are fewer buyers out there? Is it less competitive? And my answer to all of them, which isn't the best answer that they want to hear, but it's what's happening. It's that no, I am still getting multiple offers. What I am seeing is that the number of offers is slightly lower, but the offers are still above and beyond the asking price. Um, my most recent listing in Gardena, it sold for $65,000 over what we were asking. And in my opinion, it wasn't because the home was priced fairly low. The home was really priced according to what the market was. And fortunately, we got multiple offers significantly above asking, and it was a great thing for my sellers, and it was a great thing for the buyer. They still got what they wanted. So yeah, we are seeing that shift happening.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and I think for the most part, in I think a lot of at least a result in what you just described had to do with maybe the price point that you're listing at, correct? Like obviously lower sixes, mid sixes here in Southern California,
Right.
that's entry points, that's a first time buyer. There's still a lot of demand for that, right?
Right.
So you probably will have multiple offers. You will have a sort of a competitive edge as a seller. Um, and yet I'll say that as I'm beginning, I have a couple of buyers in the higher end of the market, 1.1, $1.3 million. And in that market, I do see homes staying on the market a little bit longer and price reductions, right? Which 3, 6 months ago, we weren't seeing that many.
Yeah, not too many at all. And I feel like when you are looking at how to price the listing correctly, that is something you definitely have to take into consideration. What is the market for that particular home? Is it a luxury listing? Is it a fixer upper? Is it a home that's in a beach city? Is it a home that's in a rural county? What is the market of buyers that you're trying to attract for that listing? So definitely with those higher luxury listings, everyone was really excited during these last 2 years because you could list your home at 1.3 and you were still getting the 1.5, 1.7 offers. Right now, probably because of interest rates and other reasons, but the buyers for those multi-million dollar listings, they're looking at a little bit more now. They're like, okay, well, now I have a 6% interest rate on a $1.3 million home. Does this home really have what I want? Because
Yep.
I'm paying a lot for it.
Correct. Yeah, I find it interesting as I'm seeing this transition. It's almost like a game of chicken between buyers and sellers, right? It's like
Yeah.
psychological warfare. It's like, okay, because buyers, because of interest rates, have sort of stepped back a little bit, which is part of the reason why some prices have begun to sort of, take back a little bit. And the buyer doesn't want to make a mistake, right? They don't want to overpay for a house.
Mhm.
It's the fear of regret or having buyer's remorse. And on the other side, you have the seller who, their mindset is still from 3 months ago, where you were getting top dollar for your house within 7 days on the market.
Exactly.
And that might not be the case.
Yeah.
That reality might be different today, right?
Yeah.
You might stay on the market a little bit longer. You might have to do some repairs. You might have to give up some credits. You might have to do something a little bit different to entice a qualified, motivated buyer than something that wasn't happening 3 months ago, right? So
Exactly.
that dynamic, it's really interesting as you see it happening right now. And I think it hasn't settled yet, right? We're still the market is kind of figuring itself out. And I actually, in my opinion, I think that this is a great market for the person that has a house that wants to make that move up. Why? Because you now have a motivated seller that is willing to take that offer with a contingency on a sell, which we weren't really getting those 6 months ago.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And now so they'll give you the time to sell your house, and you can still negotiate a decent price for that other property. So I think the smart, because it's still settling, there's a sort of a pocket right now where if you are in that situation, it might be worth it to take advantage of it now that there's a little bit of inconsistencies. And while the seller's trying to figure out what's going on, hey, find the right house. Like you said, it has to have all the amenities that you're looking for in the area that you want and at the price that's best for you. But I think the timing is pretty good for someone like that.
It is a really good time because what we are seeing right now, it is a balancing. Really, it's starting to even out. It's not necessarily overwhelmed with buyers, the market that we're seeing, but at the same time, sellers are having that conversation with their agents where they're easing up a little bit on their expectations because there is a difference. So it's a great time right now for people to really get in and make some strong negotiations and really work through that sale.
Yeah. So let's address pricing then. In the market, I'm noticing some price reductions. I have noticed some agents that put their home on the market, and within a couple of weeks, they have a $50,000 price reduction, which I commend agents like that because that means they're having those difficult conversations with their seller and putting them in a position to get the property sold, which ultimately is what the seller is looking for, right? As opposed to waiting 30 days and now you're sort of seriously chasing the market, which you want to avoid in this market. That's where pricing is extremely important from the beginning. As far as your pricing strategy, would you share what you usually do in order to make sure you get your like this situation with the Gardena property where you're able to get them 60,000 over? Like, what was your how do you establish that price point?
So my pricing strategy has never changed, and it shouldn't. It should always be the same for every market, because if you're paying attention to the market, you're knowing how to fairly price that listing. What I do is, when I get ready for my listing presentation, I prepare my CMA, and I have my listing contract ready with a price on it. So how I get to my final valuation before they sign the contract, for about a week, I am watching every single home within a mile radius. I'm looking at every single sale. I'm looking at how long those sales were on the market. I'm looking at price per square foot. That's my biggest thing. Um, I'm looking at I'm calling agents and asking how many offers they got to get them to the price that they closed at. I'm really deep diving into the closings in the area for those listings. I set up the valuation based on price, what the house looks like, if they redid the roof, if they redid the kitchen, if they didn't do any fixing at all. And that's how I determine my pricing. When they sign the listing contract, most of the time we give it a couple of days to put the home on the market because of photos. So maybe it's about 3 more days that are in between the listing contract being signed and the actual listing being put on the MLS going live for the public.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I look at the comps again that morning
Okay.
before I put it on the market. I have the conversation with the sellers again. Okay, we're still priced correctly. You know what? We might have to reduce our price a little bit. It looks like something weird happened with this other home for sale. It might cause a problem with the appraisal, or we can keep going, or we might be able to market the home higher. You The market literally changes every day, especially in Southern California, especially in Los Angeles, where we are. Things are happening differently every day with every listing. So every single day until that home literally goes live, I'm looking at the comparables. Then I set the value for the home. And at that point, the market's going to tell us now if we're priced correctly.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna, however many offers we get. If we don't get any offers, we know we're priced too high. Um, when we're getting those multiple offers, we're seeing where the offers are at, what the range is, and then we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to mention something you brought up that I think is really powerful, and I feel like not a lot of agents do, which is reach out to other agents who currently have properties listed in that remote area to find out as much information as possible as to, what kind of feedback they're getting with their listing within that area, or not even just listed, maybe pending, right? Because they'll be able to tell you, yeah, I got, I mean, if they're open, some agents are not, but if they're open, they're willing to share, hey, I got, a lot of offers when I put it on the market, or whatever other feedback that would give you insight into how to best position your own listing and get the best result. Now, let me ask you, as we start, as the market starts shifting, and, right now, I mean, even statistically, we're still in a very, what I would consider a seller leverage market. We're a ways away from being a balanced market between buyers and sellers. But
Right.
as we approach that, right, as we approach the balance between a buyer's and the seller's market, what are some of the things that you think will help a seller, aside from pricing it correctly, to entice a buyer to bring offers?
Well, the job I give my sellers is to listen and to stay calm. um, they hire us for a reason. So we can give them the best advice, the best direction to go with the sale of their home. Um, some things for sellers to look at when they are listing their property, it's going to be difficult. You're looking at your house and you're seeing this house you lived in for the last 10 plus years, and you just think it's the Disneyland castle. You think it's the most beautiful house on the block, and you think you're going to get way more money than the house next door got.
Yeah.
When the buyers come to look at your house, they looked at 20 houses where 20 sellers thought the same exact thing. So it's time to look at what you really have. How long has it been since you've updated the kitchen? How long has it been since you had a plumber come out just to do some maintenance? How long has it been since you've checked the roof? Is there any leaks? Is there anything you know about the property that are some minor repairs that you can get done? So then when the buyers do start coming in, you can say, oh, there was a leak there, but we fixed that. Everything's good. Or you can say, we haven't had any problems with in the house for the last 5 years. Everything's great. You really want to be as knowledgeable as about your property, and really just have you want to have an understanding with them too, because when you go to buy your next house, you're going to have the same questions, and you want to make sure that that seller is doing everything they can to make their house in the best shape for you. And those minor things can really increase the value of your home by thousands later on. So
Yep.
it's really good to look at.
Yep. Yeah, definitely looking into the condition of your home is important. And addressing, especially now more than ever, addressing some of those repairs would be valuable, right? Sometimes because, when the buyer does their inspection, they might have a little more leverage now than they had in the last 24 months, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So they might ask for, either you repair it or some credits. And, I think over the last 24 months, we got away with not having to do any repairs in a lot of cases. We got away with not doing termite, right?
Yeah.
That might come into play. We definitely got away with not giving any credits. And, I know it happens. I'm not blanketing the whole market here, but I'm just kind of speaking for more times than not, a higher percentage of the sales were as is, no contingencies. If the home appraised for above fair market value, they would ask you to pay the difference. I think that, again, as the market starts to shift and turn, those things are no longer going to be there. So having sort of like what you said is having a conversation, understanding, letting the seller know of all the potential outcomes, and preparing them to get the best result is really important, more than ever as we start moving into this market. So again, I think just to kind of recap what you're sharing with us, and I am in total agreement with everything, is, every market is a little different, even within our metro area of Los Angeles.
Right.
I mean, you literally have like Gardena and El Segundo. El Segundo is $1 million homes. Gardena's, you can still get homes in the mid 600s to 700s.
They're right to each other.
They're right next to each other, and those are two different pricing strategies, right?
Yeah.
So I think overall, if I was to kind of button this up, is make sure you have an agent that understands your immediate local market, right? Yes. They have to be strong in their communication with the seller, but also with the surrounding agents to know what the market is doing at that very moment. Because even if a lot of times what we do is we'll look at closed sales to kind of give us insight into what the market is doing. But even that is not enough right now. I think you have to see, okay, what's active, what's pending, and even how long was the pending on the market? Was it, because if you looked at 30, 40 days ago, maybe it was on the market 3, 4, 5 days, but now you're seeing homes stay on the market 14, 21 days,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So any last words of advice for a potential seller to prepare um, in how they price their home? Um, because I think it's probably one of the most important things that you can do when you are going to sell your house is price it correctly. There's a few other things that we know, and I'm sure when the time comes, we'll advise those things. But today we're focusing on pricing. When it
Right.
comes to pricing, any last words that you would like to share with any potential seller?
With a potential seller, make sure you're hiring the agent that is going to give you the realistic value of your home, and really pay attention to what the reality is of the market that they're explaining to you. That's probably the number one piece of advice that I could give to a seller at any time. You're going to sit there with a lot of agents, and some are going to say, oh yeah, we could definitely price your home for $3 million when you have a $1.5 million home. They want that listing, and that's okay, but you need to make sure you are realistic and that agent is realistic
Yeah.
with what the market is doing. It's all about what the market is going to tell you about your house as well. So you'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. It actually reminded me of a story. I'd gone into a listing where two agents had gone into an appointment with the seller before me, and both of them had told them a price point that was, one was 75 above what I suggested, and one was 100 above what I suggested. And I jokingly told the agent, well, I mean, the seller, I might as well start walking out now if it's going to be based on those two suggestions, because I'll be completely transparent. I don't feel the house would sell for that price. And I mean, at that moment, I really felt like, well, you know, the seller's probably going to go with the higher price points.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for me, they were very smart and realistic, and they understood what was being presented to them. And luckily for me, they ended up going with me, and we were able to sell their home for top dollar. So it's not like we didn't get the most out of that property, and in a timely manner, right? Like, so they didn't sit on the market for a long time. And but yeah, I agree that is solid advice. Kiani, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I think is extremely important as the market starts to turn. I want to encourage anybody in the South Bay or anywhere here in the Metro Los Angeles, look us both up. Kiani Pegues, Phillip Nunez. You can find her at Closed by Kiani on her IG. And what is your website, Kiani?
It's closedbykianire.com.
Closedbykianire.com. And you can find me at philipnunez.com. Thank you, guys. Have an amazing day. Thank you, Kiani.
Thank
We'll be
you.
in touch. Bye.
Bye.